Hi and welcome to this video. If you're new to this channel, I'm building a 20-foot sailboat in my garage, and in this video I'm going to show you progress on the starboard hull, including getting the hull bottom epoxied onto the hull side, and the bulkheads right now are just temporarily held in place to keep the hull bottom straight while the epoxy dries. And so yeah, let me show you all the steps along the way. And one other thing, just as a personal note, I'm sorry if some of the videos are a bit shaky or wobbly. My hands shake, and I mention that because well, if I can build a boat like this with, the various problems that I have, then I hope that these videos will give you the skills and the confidence to build your own projects. So follow along and I'll show you all the steps to build this 20-foot catamaran sailboat. All right, let's go. Well, there's been a lot of cool nights recently, so I haven't been able to do much work with epoxy, at least not with my slow hardener. If I used fast hardener, I probably could, but I don't have much fast hardener remaining, so I just need to wait for the nights to stay above 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and then I can get back to the epoxying. So in the meantime, I cut up a bunch of the southern yellow pine for the stringers. I just cut a bunch more today, so I don't know, I think I probably have about 20 pieces here. And then I also cut some of the southern yellow pine into the square sections. And other than that, I removed a shelf that I had that was right here, and that allowed me to push the workbench closer to the wall, and that then allows room behind the hull here. I'll show you that in just a moment. To get to the other side, I need to either open the garage door or squeeze through here at the front between the boat and the garage door, and I can just barely fit through there. And when I moved the garage door over, well, I took out a bunch of the cutoff scrap, so there's that one, and then this pile here. I'm going to get that all cut up and disposed. And I have the head sitting here that I also need to find a new home for a while, and the base for a CNC machine is there, my old base for the CNC machine, and a bunch of the I guess the jigs and everything are there. And yeah, so like I was saying, I either squeeze through the front or I open the garage door, or there is a slightly bigger gap here at the rear of the boat, and this is where I usually go through to get to the other side of the hull. And here we are on the other side of the hull, and you can see I have room with a little bit of squeezing through here to fit through and get to the other side here. And there's a good amount of space here to work when I need to on the workbench, the table saw, and I'll be doing some more planing later, so I'll take this thickness planer, turn it around, and I should have enough room here to do any planing that I have, all with this hull standing up here on the side. Finally, the weather is warm enough at night to go ahead and start doing epoxy again, so I have the first stringer that is ready to be apply epoxy. I'm going to apply epoxy to one side and then epoxy it down to the bottom edge of the hull, which is curved. So I start by spreading the epoxy out, just kind of dolloping it out along the entire length. And this is a lot harder than it looks for me with my shaky hands to try not to get epoxy everywhere, but I think I did pretty good. And I found also that about one pump for every 3 feet of this stringer board is what I need. So this is 7 pumps of the epoxy. So I've spread out the epoxy, and now I'm going to flip it over and attach it to the hull side. And I'm going to use these two pieces of wood as a spacer to get the correct distance from the edge of the hull. After epoxying on one of the stringers, I went ahead and also put on the second doubling stringer right on top of the first one. And this is the gap that I was talking about. So that will leave room for the hull bottom to sit in there. And there it is all the way to the rear of the boat. So I'm going to get these clamps off and now put a couple stringers on the top edge of the hull side. The first of the top edge stringers is on, and I'm able to do this one myself. I just apply the epoxy to the stringer and then flip it over, line it up as best I can, and sit it down close to the top edge. And it works out pretty well. I don't get epoxy all over the place. But for the bottom edge, which is curved, I need help for that one. So I'll have somebody hold one end of the stringer up while I clamp it from the other end. And that way, you know, I don't get epoxy all over everything. And so now is time to start putting the second stringer on. And for this one, because it's got one stringer down already, I'll go ahead and put the epoxy directly onto this stringer. And the other thing that I'm doing a little differently for this hull side is I'm putting the orientation of this stringer the same as the orientation of the hull bottom. And I did it differently on the other hull side. I don't even remember now why I did it differently, but I had a reason at the time, and I think this is going to be better. Having both of the stringers in the same orientation means that the thickness at the bow end will be the same. So when I put the support piece across the front edge, it'll be the same height on the two stringers going across. So I think it will hold the curve better at the front end, having the stringers in this orientation. And what I mean by that is having them on top of one another instead of sitting side by side. So instead of side by side like this, I'm making them on top of one another like this. Both the top and bottom stringers are on the hull side now, and the bottom stringer is here. This is where the hull bottom will go. And when I did the other hull, I put the hull bottom on after having only this stringer in place. And it made it difficult to hold the bulkheads in place temporarily so that I could make sure that the hull bottom was perpendicular to the hull side. And that's why, for this time, I put the top stringer in place, because that will allow me to notch both positions out of the bulkheads to help hold those bulkheads in place so that I can get the whole bottom in. And I think it will help also to get some of the support pieces that go across this way in place. So that's what I'm going to do now, is start cutting and fitting some of the support pieces, and they'll go along these lines that are in the hull sides here, just like I did with the other hull bottom, or sorry, with the other hull. And only in this case I'm going to put these in place now so that I can use them to help support the bulkheads temporarily, and the bulkheads will be there temporarily to make sure that the hull bottom is in straight. I glued two of the supports in for bulkheads 2 and 4, and I also prepared the support pieces for bulkheads 5 and 6, and I would have glued those in as well, but I'm running out of weights and I don't want to take too much of the weight off of that bow section, because I want to maintain that curve with the weights for as long as I can. So now that these two bulkhead supports for 2 and 4 are set up, I'm going to move those weights back here and get 5 and 6 glued in place. There are 4 of the bulkhead supports glued down now, 4 bulkheads 2, 4, 5, and 6. And the hull bottom is sitting here ready, and I've cut notches out of the bulkheads, and I've put packing tape here on this corner of all of the bulkheads. Just normal packing tape to stop any of the squeeze out from sticking to the bulkheads, because I don't want to permanently glue the bulkheads in place yet. They're going to be clamped into the support pieces to just hold the hull bottom perpendicular. So I guess now I'm going to clamp the hull, or clamp the bulkheads in, and then get the hull bottom epoxied in place. Here are the bulkheads temporarily clamped in place, and I think we're ready to apply the epoxy now. The hull bottom is epoxied in place, and I noticed a little bit down here at the rear end of the boat that the hull bottom wasn't quite meeting up with the hull side. I pressed it down and I just couldn't quite get the two to meet. And I think the build platform is lower a bit in this corner. So I had to put some shims under the hull side in order to be able to get the to raise the hull side up to be able to meet the hull bottom. But this is the hull bottom all along to the front with all the clamps, and the bulkheads, remember, are just temporary right now. The main thing is to get the hull bottom in place, and I think this will be a good progress to show for this video. It's been a while since I've made the last video, and that's mainly due to the weather. It's just been getting really cool at night, so it makes it hard for the epoxy to cure once the temperature drops below 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, that's with the slow hardener that I'm using. If I was to use the fast hardener, then I could go down to 40, but I don't have much fast hardener remaining. When I was at West System, or when I was at West Marine recently, I actually bought some extra slow hardener because I thought the temperature was going to be getting warmer, not cooler. So I was wrong on the weather, but anyway, that's the progress update, and I hope you enjoy.